Hello and welcome to Coffee and Conversation at InnoFest 2019 here in Singapore. I'm your host, Shashank Bengali, and we're joined today by Yonatan Winetraub, co-founder of Space.il. Yonatan, this year, Space.il launched the first ever privately financed interplanetary mission, Beresheet. Tell us a bit about this mission.
So thank you for having me. So Beresheet started about 8.5 or 9 years ago. We were 3 co-founders, Javier, Fury, and myself. We sat down in a bar and we thought, why not get to the moon? We registered for a competition that was organized by Google, called Google Lunar X Prize, and set ourselves off to land on the moon. Unfortunately, a spaceship is not something you can build in your backyard, and we were joined forces by IAI, which is the main contractor for satellites in Israel, and they have the expertise and the facilities. And together, with a big team in Israel, we actually built the first interplanetary mission that landed on the moon. I want to say one important thing about this mission. When we started it, we thought we can do something which is a lot bigger than just landing on the moon. We thought we can use this as a source for inspiration for kids to pursue careers in sciences and engineering. And kids today, they are much less interested about sciences. They're much more interested about being celebrities and video games, which is important. I play video games, it's totally fine. But we also need the science and the engineering. And we thought by taking this mission and making it public, kids would be able to look at it and one day do their own moonshots.
And so how has Space.il influenced the changes toward STEM education in Israel?
So first of all, we had a big team of volunteers that actually went class to class and reached over 1 million students and told them about Space.il and told them about the engineering and the ingenuity that is behind making this first mission go to the moon. And for kids, it's very inspiring to meet an actual engineer that talks about an engineering problem and which is actually going to the moon. It's not that theoretical for them. And I think we saw a big shift in Israel after the launch and before the landing. Kids were dressed up as astronauts. Kids were having a great time about thinking about maybe one day they want to be engineers. I want to say a story about a girl that was standing next to her mom in the launch. They were together in the launch, and she turned to mom and says, "Mom, maybe I'll be a scientist one day." And that was very warming because they feel like they can be that way when they grow up.
That's great. I want to ask you about the final stages of the mission. So tell us what happened with the landing and just describe those final moments, if you would.
Yeah, so the mission is a very complicated mission. It is rocket science. We had a few, well, the spaceship was not an easy kid. We had a few problems along the way. The engineering team, the joint engineering team by Israeli Aerospace Industries and Space.il were actually able to overcome and live with a lot of problems that happened during the mission. At the final stages, everything went well, but we had 15 minutes from orbital to touch the ground. 15 minutes to stop the enormous velocity. The spacecraft was traveling faster than a bullet to get it to 0. The first 10 minutes went by the book. Everything went as planned, everything went perfectly fine. And then we got a warning or an error in one of the sensors that was measuring with the spacecraft, and that cascaded to a series of events that ended up in shutting down of the main engine. The moon doesn't have an atmosphere, so we have to come down on rockets. We cannot use parachutes or any other of those facilities. And because we had to come down in rockets and the engine was shut down, we were speeding up towards the surface of the moon. And we actually hit it at about 1,000 meters per second. We did get to the moon, we did land. It was a hard landing. We landed in too many pieces, but we did land.
So you've called it a successful mission regardless of the hard landing. And I know we also spoke to Ofer Doron, co-founder, who's talked about the idea of an Apollo effect, inspiring Israel through a successful mission. So describe, if you would, how the country of Israel has reacted to this mission and to the landing.
So I think one of the unique parts of this mission, we were a very, very open mission. We were very open and public about all the problems that we had and how we overcome it. And one of the things that I really liked is, for example, one of the problems that we had in the very early on in the mission was a problem with the star tracker, which is one of the sensors that is responsible for orienting the spacecraft. And we put it out there, we put an explanation about what the star tracker is, and I actually heard people on the bus speaking about what should be done and how can we fix it. And these people, 99.999% of Israel did not know a star tracker is a thing before Beresheet. And they were talking about how to fix it now. And I think this is what we wanted to do. We wanted to bring science closer to people, so that we think that they can take part and participate. And I think this is the important effect that we were able to do for a short moment in Israel.
So, have to ask you what's coming next. Is there a Beresheet 2.0? After this mission, what do you see as the next step, the next challenge?
So after Beresheet hard landed on the surface of the moon, we decided we want to do a second attempt. We actually, our president, Mr. Morris Khan, announced that he wanted to do a second attempt. We're now considering what would that second attempt entail. We don't want to do exactly the same mission, but because we don't feel that it's going to be as impactful as the first one, and we began an open discussion about what should be the next mission and how could we do something that is as inspiring for kids to pursue science and engineering. But one day, it's going to be up to them to bring the pieces of Beresheet back here to Earth.
So, are we thinking about possibly Mars or an asteroid landing, or is it too soon to say?
It's too soon to say. We are accepting ideas. So if you have ideas, please send us, on Facebook and send it us. In our way, we're definitely going to consider that.
So we're speaking at InnoFest 2019 here in Singapore. You've been in Singapore for a couple of days. Tell us what you think about what you've seen here in Singapore in terms of here's a society that has been focused on STEM for many years. Do you see how that's influenced what's going on here at InnoFest?
So InnoFest in Singapore is an amazing event and country. It's actually my first time visiting here, and I'm very impressed by the people here and by the technology that exists here. I think a lot of similarities between Israel and Singapore. And I think the good news is, up until April of this year, landing on the moon was only in the realm of superpowers and governments and big organizations. Starting April with our landing, it's something that can happen with private individuals, with private companies, and I'm looking forward for the day that the first Singapore mission to the moon would happen.
So with all this focus on STEM, and it's something you've really tried to work hard to foster in Israel, think about it for us and explain what you think a highly science and tech literate society would look like in 10, 20 years down the road. What does that vision mean for you?
So for me, I think the vision of STEM education is that everybody would think that STEM is part of them. Science is not foreign. It's not something that someone else does that is up to special people that have special abilities. Everyone can take part in science. It is a marker size of science. And I think that in recent years, we've seen a split. People think, oh, scientists are this organization. We don't feel like we're part of this. We don't feel like we're participants in the scientific method. But science is for everyone. And I think that this mission and others that will follow and following around the world, I think they are a big part of saying, kids, science is a part of you. It's not out there. And also, we live in an amazing era today. We're basically limited by our dreams. Technology would catch up.
So describe this rocket for us. What was actually contained on the rocket that went up?
So the spaceship had a scientific experiment, but we also thought we can take something with us to the surface of the moon that would represent what is it like here on Earth 2019. And we took a time capsule about this big that contained 30 million pages of Wikipedia, of pictures of books that was made by an organization called Ark Mission Foundation, and actually have a piece of that time capsule. What you see here is the entire Bible inscribed on this small piece. It's actually written that future generations can find it on the surface of the moon. They actually think it survived the hard landing, and future generations can actually go pick it up, look under a microscope, and read what is it like here on Earth 2019.
Well, I think that's a great note to end on. That's all the time we have for today. I want to thank Yonatan for joining us, and thank you for joining us on Coffee and Conversation. See you next time.
Thank you.